Welcome back to Diarrhea Dial. I'm bald now. Today we've got another book review, and it's a very fitting book review because I stole the name of this show from the author of the book.
Let's flick that shit switch and crank up that diarrhea dial. I got Dark Castle on CD.
Thanks, James. A Movie-Making Nerd, the autobiography of James Rolfe, published in 2022. You may know James as the angry video game nerd, Bored James, the bullshit man, or I think his friends call him Jim. So I really didn't know what I would find in this book, but honestly I was shocked at the candidness and detail that James goes into. I mean, I know it's an autobiography, but it gets pretty deep. So A Movie-Making Nerd is really about James's story of becoming a filmmaker. It starts when he was a kid all the way up to the shortly after the release of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie from 2014? 2014, holy shit, that's over 10 years ago. Jesus Christ. You gotta remember that because literally just last year, well, technically 2 years ago, I went to Too Many Games Con in Philadelphia, and James was there, and he did a 10-year anniversary screening of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, and he kind of hung out with the audience after and had a bunch of props from the movie. It was really cool. I even posted a video on it. I can't believe I forgot that it was over 10 years old. So this book is incredibly thoughtful, genuine, it's funny as hell, and honestly pretty moving. You know, honestly, I have a little bit of a bias because I've been watching James since I was like 13, I think, when I first saw, I think the Power Glove was the first video I saw, the first Angry Video Game Nerd video that I saw. And now I'm old enough that I have to shave my head and watch my blood sugar. Where did the hair go? But despite that bias, I do think anybody that enjoys hearing about filmmaking or really just a compelling coming-of-age story would really enjoy this book. Also, quick note, I feel like the day after I ordered this, James made a post that was just like, hey, the next 100 people to order the book, get it signed for no additional charge. And I was like, fuck! So close. So starting with the actual physical design of the book, it looks awesome. The cover design is sick and sharp. The font size is actually a bit bigger than I'm used to for books. I felt like I could barely see the text in Horus Rising, the last Diarrhea Dial that I did. So that's great, that's a huge plus for me. And there's a bunch of pictures that really help just illustrate what was going on at the time. It was really interesting to get this behind the scenes view of how the donuts are made, so to speak. James has always been a huge behind the scenes DIY guy. His absolute love for the craft oozes out the pores of everything he touches. And as a fan, it's cool to see where he was at in his personal life during the making of some of my favorite videos. So the nerd is often seen slamming back, rolling rocks, and kind of just doing all this crazy shit. And that really makes me feel like, especially those earlier videos, it just kind of has this vibe of, getting the boys together, slamming some brewskis and just doing some, dumb creative shit. And that's something I really relate to. So it's cool to see how that was kind of the truth for a lot of the earlier videos and some to this day. There is a lot to this book, and I wouldn't want to really give anything away, but there are two things in particular that I wanted to touch on that really kind of stuck with me. So James talks about some incredibly personal stuff in here that you can tell he does it with this love and kind of this hope that by sharing, I think he even says this in the book, by sharing his own experience, maybe somebody else, that might be going through something similar or that's just kind of having a tough time in kind of hearing about his experience, it might lighten the load a little bit. And just let me be the first to say that's absolutely true for many of us fans. James kind of talks about how when he was a kid, kind of being a bit of a black sheep, being a bit misunderstood. But a specific area that he gets into is being feeling that way academically, like at school. And I know things have changed a lot since, I was in school, especially when James was in school. But I still think it's not perfect, obviously. I feel like, I'm sure tons of improvements are constantly being made, but I feel like in general, a lot of public schools, or probably just any schools, they kind of have this box of what they expect a box that they kind of expect you to fit in. Maybe it's a couple boxes these days, but still there's these boxes, and I find them to be very limiting for most people. And that can really affect who you are for maybe the rest of your life. Everybody learns in different ways and is skilled in different ways that, any sort of one-size-fits-all solution could never work. You know what I mean? We still do it, but I feel like that's why so many people could struggle through school and then they go on to become a, billionaire CEO. A personal example I have is that I've always had just terrible handwriting, and I don't know what it is. Like these days I have carpal tunnel, but even way before then, it just like hurts my hand to write, legibly or correctly, you could say. And that was always a huge issue because I got really good at English class. I don't know if it was like overcompensation. I was kind of rough at it at first and my handwriting sucked. So I just felt really like bad about that as a kid. So I really learned how to do spelling. How to create grammar. As you can see, I'm still very good at it. But I felt so bad for my teachers because they would say stuff like, your stuff is so good when I can read it, which made me feel kind of guilty. So the handwriting thing is something that I struggled with all the way up until high school, and it was kind of a bummer, man. It's still like when I write stuff down to this day, it just kind of sucks. If I know other people are going to be reading it, I have to try to make it as legible as possible. Even though I know all the words and the spelling, it just hurts. It just hurts my hand. But then I got a computer, and that was the end of all that bullshit. After high school, James also talks about some of his college experiences, and good Lord, maybe it's not that much of a stretch of the imagination that, like this guy.
Funny trick! Bombs away, bunny bitch!
Got into some shenanigans, kind of back in the day, but some of the stories he tells, woo! Oh my God. I remember thinking Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm reading this. But anyway, the second thing that I wanted to talk about that James talks about in his book, A Movie Making Nerd, that's the back if you wanted to see the back, is something a lot more sensitive. Towards the end of the book, as it gets closer to current day, James talks about his experience. I've said experience like 1,000 times, I don't care. Becoming a father. He talks a bit about the difficult conversations going into deciding if you're going to become a parent, the sacrifices that you have to make as a parent, and just the overwhelming, unyielding anxiety that's involved in being responsible for a whole ass human being, It's a big deal. But what kind of struck me the most about that is James talks about how his family experienced some very serious and scary health complications during the pregnancies and stuff like that. And, that's unfortunately something that, I know I can and a lot of other people in the world can relate to. And it's really difficult to describe to somebody that hasn't been in that situation. I don't know. I feel like people are mostly empathetic. They can understand to an extent. But there is really... I can't really think of anything much worse than having to sit there and feeling tremendously helpless while, your loved one is going through something very scary that you don't know the outcome of. And you don't want to say and while that's not really something that you should or can compare, I do feel like it's really, really rough when it's a child. Jesus. Okay. Well, anyway, back to the book review about a guy who shits on video games for a living. Fortunately, it seems like everything in that regard resolved in a positive way for James, and I'm very grateful. I kind of helped. I got it. Fuck it. Keep it. I kind of oh my God. I kind of used this book to help me get back into reading in 2025 during a pretty tough year, as if I didn't already feel like I, owed James for all of the stuff that he's released over the years that I've loved so much. I found that making the effort to sit down every night for it doesn't have to be an hour. Sometimes it was 10 minutes before I started zonking out. But just having this on my nightstand and reading a couple pages or a chapter before bed each night, it kind of I don't know, when everything was so chaotic for so long, it kind of helped me relearn how to relax and kind of shut down just turn down the anxiety a little bit. That doesn't need to be 1,000% all day long, especially right before bed. And I don't know, it was really nice. I really kind of got a lot out of that. But anyway, enough of the glazing and the touchy-feelies. It is with great pleasure that I give A Movie Making Nerd by James Rolfe the official Diarrhea Dial rating of ass. All right, see you later. Read the book. Read the book. Read the fucking book. Ass. Splitters my ass and shredders my balls.